Joining me now, I got my co-host, Mr. Darrell Balknight from New York City, director of the DCSAA, Mr. Clark Ray. Darrell, just want to start with you for a moment. Of course, we're here in the Washington, D.C. area. We're preparing for the worst. You're at the epicenter of all of this. How are things in New York City for you right now?
You know, it's really weird being outside and just going out for a walk here and there. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's out driving in their cars. I was looking at a picture this morning of some of the busiest areas in New York: Times Square, Columbus Circle, Central Park, and there's nobody outside. Essentially, they're building hospitals in Central Park, almost tent-like hospitals. Our convention center, the Javits Center, is now a hotspot for patients with coronavirus and other sicknesses. So it's really weird, you know, being inside and not being out in one of the busiest places in the world.
New normal in global sports. Clark Ray, of course, these are the things that we are attempting to avoid happening right here in the district in and of itself. I know that you have a ton of information on that. We just want to start there. Is there any new information of anything that's going on? Do we have any updates for what's going on in the district?
Yeah, look, I think the mayor at her last briefing alluded to and stated that the public schools or all schools in the District of Columbia would not reopen on April 28th as had been previously planned. Now, that she did not go as far as canceling school for the remainder of the year, but I do know yesterday during the council session, they gave her an extended authority, I think, through June for her to keep in place her public health emergency. So we're in a wait and see, but it doesn't seem very good right now for spring sports to be able to take place.
And sports is what it is. Obviously, this global pandemic, it goes much deeper, much more meaningful than just sports. People are losing their lives, but we do want to speak about athletics. As we take a look at the NCAA, of course, a few weeks ago, they did, put out there the idea that student athletes at the collegiate level could be eligible for a fifth year, for an additional redshirt year, which a lot of people cheer and we advocate for. But what I want to ask you is, what effect would such a ruling have on student athletes at the high school level, especially here in the DMV?
Well, again, that is going to open up areas that we haven't explored yet. I mean, it's all new for us. It would require for us to relax some of our rules. I think you will have those, some student athletes who will look to reclassify and not try to reclassify under any other scenario other than reclassifying because they want that additional year. They feel like they may need that in order to improve their chances to get a scholarship to attend college, and that's understandable. But that would certainly, for us, make us think outside of the box. I every day read articles from across the country, from different state athletic associations, and they're having those same conversations right now in Florida, California, Arizona, and Texas about what's going to happen if and when we do get back to our new normal.
And Clark, with that, in terms of reclassifying or student athletes looking to do that, is there going to be any change in the way that a student athlete could qualify for reclassification? Are there going to be, maybe drops in potential GPAs or things that the DC State Athletic Association is going to maybe lax a little bit on and for those who want to take that route?
Well, I think number one for us and for me personally, maybe it's not shared by all who are in the circle of the district sports world, but our rule is, you can't be over 19 or over as of August the 1. So that's a safety issue for us. So for me personally, I would be an advocate for, as long as a student athlete has not already turned 19, that we would look at that as the key indicator of what we are going to do moving forward. We have to relax. Maybe, our rule says if you're a senior and you lack fewer than 2 credits to graduate, you're ineligible. So for things like that, we'll have to look at and we'll have to relax. if that demand becomes great.
In
GPA,
difficult,
go ahead.
I was going to say that I know that in difficult times, often some of the best ideas are born out of situations such as this one. I felt as though you had a great one with the initiative that I had an opportunity to work with you on. That, of course, being the One Last Look initiative, being certain that student athletes who were deserving of a look from college coaches who could not make it down to see them, or vice versa, being sure that they were looked at. Speak to us about how that kind of came about, why you thought of that, and if there are or is anything else that we're doing for student athletes at this time.
Well, look, I mean, I think that all one has to do is get on the social media platforms, and you feel you empathize with our student athletes who've worked so hard, dedicated themselves to their craft and their skill and to the classroom, and to be, in their eyes, deprived of this opportunity. And for some seniors, I mean, they were using the spring to, up the ante, to maybe get a few more looks, maybe get a couple more offers. And so for us, this is a way to expand and expose our student athletes to some of those coaches who may not have had an opportunity to see them play. I mean, look, more than likely, we're not going to have the June live period in the District of Columbia for basketball. I don't know what going forward in any sport other than, getting ready for the fall. And a lot of my colleagues across the country are not even sure we're going to go back on a normal fall schedule.
Wow.
Still in that uncharted territory. Again, I want to applaud the leaders of the region in which we live, the DMV, and I want to give mad props to my mayor of the District of Columbia, who's been a leader on this. And it's about safety first. It's about flattening this curve and making sure that we keep not only our student athletes safe, but also keeping our families safe. And our frontline workers, healthcare workers, police department, fire and EMS. We're all in this together. So whatever we can do on our part to maybe expand and expose our student athletes that little bit extra without having all come together in groups of 5 or more, we're going to do it. So I want to thank you for jumping on and helping us with this initiative.
One of the things I'm curious about is how, coaches of spring student athletes are interacting with their players or with their participants. Is there more kind of what we're doing virtual communication? Are there at-home workout plans? Are there things that those athletes can do at home to keep themselves in shape and prepared? And then along with that, what can college coaches who are interested in certain student athletes do to connect with them since they can't do so physically?
Well, again, for us, I think we have gone to a sort of a virtual workout. We did our first one yesterday, and I think we had about 300 viewers online at one time with a coach from Dunbar, Coach Clark, who is working out our student athletes. We are posting and trying to post weekly, workout tips. We're posting training tips from our athletic trainers. So it's sort of, we're all in this together, and we will continue to explore and look for ways. I'm not opposed to finding something that's working up in the Northwest or in the Midwest and trying to bring it to the District of Columbia. And it's not only, I think for us, and I think Chad, you may be able to add weight behind it. We are more, when I say DCSAA has become more than just the District of Columbia. We are certainly our number one priority are our student athletes within the district. But we have a lot of student athletes within the DMV who follow us, and all of our students know each other. They all play together during the school year, during the sports season year. So for just like our leaders, Bowser, Governor Hogan, and the governor from Virginia have come together. It's the same what we're doing with all of our sectors here. So we're all in it together.
The antithesis, of course, of digital learning and digital training are the trainers and even some coaches who are still taking groups of student athletes, albeit 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, out and working out in drills. In my opinion, Clark Ray, there's a bit of a disconnect for those individuals who feel as though they're truly doing what's best for the student athlete and potentially what's best for the community in terms of social distancing? What message would you have to those trainers and or coaches who are taking out these groups?
Stay home. Stay home, social distance. Follow the mayor and the governor's decrees. Stay at home, flatten the curve. I get it. I think a lot of our student athletes feel like, as we once did, or as I once did, invincible, right? I mean, this thing's not going to get me. I'm not going to get sick, and that may be true. You may not get sick, but if you have a grandmother or a grandfather, if you meet a policeman on the street, or you go into a grocery store where there's a grocery worker, you may be able to transmit that disease. So stay home. It's irresponsible for adults at this point in time to be putting our youth in danger. We should be advocating for and speaking for and acting on behalf of our regional leaders and following their decrees and their orders, period.
Are there any conversations being had among you and other executives and leaders in the DC area in the sports world about how you can get to that final point, that apex? It's hard to determine when this will all end, obviously, but there are some, like, as you said, who are skeptical about the fall season even beginning on time or happening at all. What are those conversations like, and what's being said behind closed doors?
Well, I think for all of us, and certainly for my colleague in Maryland, Andy Warner, who's got his hands full with the Maryland Public Schools, and Billy Hahn, who is the director down in Virginia. But for us in the district, we touch on all three. It's not only the District of Columbia. It's not only, like, for instance, the Sidwells and Murrays that belong to the DCSAA, but they also belong to the MAC, which have schools in Virginia and have schools in Maryland. So we have to have conversations not only with my colleagues, but with the executive directors of those leagues. Because if we start later, if either of us, any of us start later, then that is automatically going to push back our, in the district, our state championships or our events that we have because of the reality. So conversations have been had just in general, but nothing to get. But we'll have to get specific real soon.
We'll get you out of here on this, Clark. A lot of the conversation that's going on right now is in relation to when sports do return, the idea, at least on the professional level, of playing these games without crowds. Is that something that has been discussed at all? Is it something that you've thought about? And if so, what does that look like, Gonzaga-St. John's game with no one there?
It looks odd, right? Oh, there goes my little 7-year-old right there, excuse him. It looks odd, but you know what? We're going to do what we have to do. I don't know what the new normal is going to be. I can tell you that, I miss sports, dude. All my Wizards tickets, the Lakers, all that hurt. Would I have liked to sit at home and watch the Wizards on NBC Sports app with nobody in the stands? Yeah, I would have, and I think probably the players may enjoy playing. So we may get to that in the high school world. I don't know. I hope not. But I think sports will find a way to take place. You can't allow everyone to go to school together and then not have extracurricular activities. So we have to figure out a way to do it, and we have to figure out the safest way.
Jerome?
I think, finally, since you brought that up, I think it would be odd, as you said, to have those high school games. Imagine the student section at Gonzaga and St. John's empty. But hopefully we don't come to that point. But if we do have to do that, indeed, are there any neutral sites where games will be played? There are other major leagues discussing having games at one site. Would there be a neutral site? Would they continue to be played at their home stadiums and arenas?
We can do it like youth league, Clark. All games at Catholic University starting at 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. at night.
Yeah, I think, we are so unique in the District of Columbia with not only the public sector, with the public charter sector, and with the private sector, and really with each sector governing them own, their own selves. Plus, we're so geographically compact in the district. I'm not sure if you went to one site, how much more safer that would be, as opposed to if you were in my home state of Arkansas and smack over and telling everybody to come in and play on this field where it's completely isolated. We don't have that. So I don't think that would be an avenue we would explore. I think they would probably be at the home sites of the home school.
Excellent. Certainly great information that we're talking about here today. This is ever evolving, hashtag the new normal, what exactly that is and what exactly that will be. We are here to deliver that information. Clark Ray, thank you very much for joining us and breaking this down.
Okay, 1 minute before you cut out. And my little said he got to say hi.
Ricky!
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Ricky.
Good night, Mr. Carter. Say hi.
Hi.
How are you?
It is time for afternoon reading, which we just don't really like. So we're going to get off Zoom and we're going to go read.
We're going to go read. Clark Ray, thank you very much, brother. Bye, Ricky.
All right, guys.
All right, take care.
Ricardo Report, bruh.